Hi Math 1 students, I'm here to work 1-4 number 19 with you. This is a problem that's a little tricky and I get a lot of requests on it, so I'm going to work it out here with you. Here's the problem. It's 2m, minus nx equals x plus 4. And you're asked to solve for x. All right, so by doing that, what I want to do when I solve for a variable is isolate it on one side of the equation. Now looking at this, I've got an x here and an x here. So if I want to isolate the x on one side of the equation, I probably want to bring these x's over here, and I want to get rid of that 4 to this side. Now it doesn't matter what order you do it in. Let's get rid of the 4 first. And by doing that, on this side I'll have 2m minus nx minus 4 equals x. Now I'd like to get this x over here so I can once again have all my x's on one side of the equation. So it's subtract and I do the opposite operation to it. I add to both sides. And by doing that, I've got 2m minus 4 equals x plus nx. Now here's the thing. I'm supposed to be isolating my x, right? And I've got an x here and an x here. How do I do that? If I divided by n, let me show you that. If I divided by n to get it away from here, when I divide this by n, I have to divide this by n too, by the distributive property. And then I have x over n, and x is still not isolated. Frustrating. So what you're going to use is the distributive property, or the reverse of the distributive property if you want to think of it like that. You're going to isolate the x by factoring it out. Undistribute. Okay? If I factor out the x out of this term, both of these terms, if I divide an x out of this term, I'm left with 1. If I divide an x out of this term, I'm left with just n. So now I have x times 1 plus n. Now do it. Do the distributive property. Make sure you get back to this. Then you know you factored it out correctly. Is x times 1 plus n? Does it give me back this? Well, distribute. X times 1 is x. X times n would be plus nx. And it does. So I've done it correctly. Now look, my x is isolated. X is multiplied by this whole blob here. So on this side I have 2m minus 4, and that equals this. So to get x by itself, the opposite of multiply would be divide. I'm going to divide 1 plus n to both sides of the equation. I have to divide everything on this side, not just one term, the whole thing. That will eliminate that, and I'm now isolating my x. X equals 2m minus 4 divided by 1 plus n. Now I've isolated it and I'm finished. There's your solution. You've solved for x. If this would simplify any more, you could, but remember, these two terms go together and these two terms go together. You can't just divide them out individually because they're subtracted and added. They're not multiplied or divided. So you are finished with that.